We're going to talk about my hot take with Final Fantasy 16 because, yeah, I don't know how people are going to feel about it. So, yeah, my opinions on Final Fantasy 16, I would say are controversial, but I want to explain why because it's not for the reasons you think. I want to say first and foremost that I think that Final Fantasy 16 is a really good game. For context, Final Fantasy 16 was my second Final Fantasy game to ever play. I played it immediately after playing Remake because I liked Remake so much. I went straight into Final Fantasy 16. I think the story's really good. The gameplay's phenomenal. Don't even get me started on the music because, oh my god, some of the best music I've heard in a video game. And obviously, the story is really good. I might have said that twice. I can't remember. Either way, Final Fantasy 16, in my opinion, is a good game. Now, this is where my opinion gets a little controversial. That's not how you say that word. This is where my opinion gets a little controversial because I don't think Final Fantasy 16 is a good platinum. Now, when I say that Final Fantasy 16 is not a good platinum, that probably raises some flags for some people because I just said that Final Fantasy 16 is a good game. I want to say that, first of all, a game can be good, but it doesn't necessarily mean that its platinum is good. To be honest, it kind of drags out. It drags out in three ways. One, it drags out with its side quests and side content. Two, with its AP system, and three, with New Game Plus, or in this instance, Final Fantasy mode. We'll start out with the side quest because I think that just makes the most sense. Oh, I love going to talk to more people. Well, and one of these quests like have combat in them, or will they all just be like, let's talk to an NPC? Why are so many of Final Fantasy 16's quest line go talk to NPCs? Like, that's the quest. Why not just do it now? Why do I have to? Why can't you just give me the reward? That doesn't make any sense. Just give me the reward now. Why do I have to do another dialogue box to get the reward? Hello? This is where I had a lot of pain and suffering. I say that because the side quests are kind of bad. A lot of Final Fantasy XVI side quests are kind of monotonous. They're really just talk to these people, gather this material, fight this monster. Like, there's little to no variety. It's usually one of those three things. Yes, I understand what it's doing because these side quests are not just designed for the gameplay aspect, but it's also designed for the story aspect because it grows out these relationships with these characters, which I totally get. But I think you could do this in a way that's fun and not just monotonous, go pick these flowers or go kill this 1 millionth enemy again. One of the side quests you do very early on is you have to go to this restaurant inside the hideaway and you have to go and talk to this guy and go deliver food to customers. And that's literally the side quest. I don't want to go and deliver food to people for a side quest. The second side quest, I believe, is going to get wood. Those are your first two side quests in Final Fantasy 16. I don't know, there's just a lot of duds. Like, if I'm thinking back on my playthrough of Final Fantasy 16, I can't think of really a ton of instances where they were fun and good side quests. Also, there's just a lot of them. Like, there's so many different side quests in Final Fantasy 16. That's my gripe with the side content. I didn't think it was very good. It was very weak. It just kind of felt like padding to just extend the game's length, which I wasn't a big fan of. Now then, for the AP system. The AP system is essentially the way that you upgrade your icons. As you know, there are a bunch of different icons and they have different abilities. They do this, they do that. They are very epic and very fun to use. But in order to get stronger versions of your icon's attacks, you have to upgrade them in this fancy little wheel right here. And you need AP points to do that. And I mean, you need a lot of AP points. I don't know the exact number. I'll put it somewhere here or here if I feel like it. But yeah, you need a ton of AP points to get enough to complete all the icons. And yes, I did say complete all the icons because one of the achievements, one of my least favorite achievements in Final Fantasy XVI, involves you mastering every single icon. Now, in a normal playthrough, you get a decent amount, but really it's only enough, I want to say, for half of the icons, if that even, assuming you're trying to get the platinum and doing all the side content. Fortunately, when you go into New Game Plus, your AP rate does increase. You do get more AP per battle, which thank God, because if you didn't, dude, this grind would have literally taken years off my life. Yeah, it was bad, but it's not the worst grind I've ever done. We don't talk about that grind. Not ever again. So that's how the AP system works, and kind of why I don't really like the AP system that much. But now we're gonna get into my least favorite part of Final Fantasy XVI's Platinum, and the reason why I really did not enjoy this Platinum. And that is because of Final Fantasy mode. This is the New Game Plus. I've been mentioning it throughout the video. This essentially requires you to do a second playthrough of Final Fantasy. Now, if you know anything about me at all, then you know that I don't like New Game Pluses, and I don't like having to replay a game just to extend the game's runtime. I really don't like it. The game has to substantially change for me to enjoy it. And, well, this does not happen with Final Fantasy XVI. The only difference really is that you take more damage, and I believe that's it. If there's more, I'll put it on the screen, but I'm pretty sure it's just enemies are stronger. And I think it's really interesting that Final Fantasy XVI's Platinum has a New Game Plus playthrough, because I feel like Final Fantasy XVI is one of those games you just play once and you just cherish the memory of that playthrough, because some of the beats in Final Fantasy XVI are so good. Final Fantasy XVI has some really good character development, and it's really nice playing through that the first time because it feels really organic. But when you do a second playthrough, you're skipping the cutscenes, you're just rushing through the fights, and there's not really much weight to it anymore. It's just kind of like, okay, let's do it. It's the last thing I have to do. And you kind of look at it in a negative lens, or at least I looked at it in a negative lens. Whereas in my first playthrough, I loved almost every moment. I say almost because, you know, there are some moments in Final Fantasy XVI that I did not enjoy. But I look at the story and I have fond memories of it. And then I look at my Final Fantasy mode playthrough and I'm just like, why am I having to do this? Why am I having to replay through this again? Why am I having to skip all these cutscenes and just do this all over again? Like, it just feels like a chore. It's not fun.
Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, yes!
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, it's over!
Final
Fantasy finally, and...
So that's my opinion on Final Fantasy XVI's Platinum. Now, I want to reiterate that I think Final Fantasy XVI is not a bad game. While I do believe the story mode of Final Fantasy XVI is really good, I think it's everything else about Final Fantasy XVI that I don't really like. I'm not a big fan of the side quests since they feel very repetitive and monotonous. I didn't like the AP grind, and I really did not enjoy the New Game Plus playthrough since, in my opinion, I didn't really notice a lot of differences, and it more so felt like I was going back through the game again and not really having any new or enhanced experiences like a New Game Plus should do. It kind of ruins or dampers the experience of your first playthrough, or at least in my opinion. So that's why I don't personally recommend Final Fantasy XVI's Platinum. Alright, so now that we're done with the main game, let's talk about the DLC, because I think the DLC is an important part of this conversation, because if there was no DLC, then I think I would look at Final Fantasy XVI very differently than I do now, because the DLC has definitely changed my perspective about Final Fantasy XVI. Now, everything that I just said, I still do believe, and I still think that is true, but the DLC did some things that I really liked. I think it is. No, it 100% is. This is a fucking slapper, though. Holy shit. Yo. This is a hype as fuck. I want to talk about Echoes of the Fallen just a little bit. I'm not going to go into great detail about this DLC because I did this a while back, and I have a full video going over my thoughts of Echoes of the Fallen. I'm actually going to do a video in a similar style with the Rising Tide, so if you like this discussion, keep your eyes out for the Rising Tide video, which will probably come somewhat soonish. Those videos take a lot longer to make than these do, so I don't know, man. I want to say this, and I'm going to keep it very brief, as I said before. Echoes of the Fallen was a good DLC. Do I think it was a little pricier than it should have been? Yeah, I do, because I bought it individually. I should have done the bundle. I know, I'm an idiot, but I mean, look at me. Come on. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It took me about 3 hours to beat Echoes of the Fallen, and I did it in one playthrough because technically you can do it in two if you do the first playthrough in normal and then you go back and do it in Final Fantasy mode, because you have to beat the boss Omega in Final Fantasy mode for one of the achievements. I think the first half of Echoes of the Fallen is really weak. Like, it's just not good. I get what they're doing. It is definitely setting up the story and the reason why Clive and the gang are in the tower. It makes sense. But like, there is so little going on. It's just a ton of cutscenes and then chasing around the bad guys. And I say that with air quotes because they're not really bad guys. You're chasing around for the first half, and then once you get to the second half, you're climbing the tower. And the tower was a lot of fun because the gameplay in the tower is great. Like, the bosses throughout the tower are really great, except for that bull one that we don't talk about. Okay, that should be good. It should be good. You, dude, that's so stupid. And then the Omega fight. Oh my god, the Omega fight is so good. It is like one of the best fights in Final Fantasy XVI in my opinion. It just has everything. It has amazing music, it has really, really fun gameplay, even though it is kind of infuriating at times. It's really fun because it amps up the difficulty. It really makes Final Fantasy mode feel like a hard mode. It makes it really test your patience because the difficulty spike with the Omega fight is astronomical in comparison to the rest of the DLC. But yeah, I actually really, really liked Echoes of the Fallen in one aspect, and that is its simplicity. I really liked how it was pretty much just play through the game, and that's it. Now then, the Rising Tide DLC. Oh, wait, is this it? What the f***? I literally almost had it. That's crazy. Oh my god. I was not ready for how good this DLC was. I think that this DLC is some of the best DLC I've had in a video game in a good while. Well, maybe besides Valhalla, because Valhalla was really good, but like, that's not fair to compare this to Valhalla. Like, that's not it. Okay, I'm gonna get in trouble if I say that, so I'm gonna cut that out of the video, hopefully. The Rising Tide DLC is really good. It's very different from Echoes of the Fallen because yes, it does have its main story beat, it does have characters it fleshes out, but it's more open. You get a lot more new things with this DLC. You get 2 new icons, which is really cool, actually. You get Leviathan, but then you get Ultima, too, which I was not expecting. Honestly, I really wish that Ultima's icon was in the main game because it's so good. Now, I know that I said you shouldn't platinum Final Fantasy XVI, but I 100% believe that you should get all of the Rising Tide trophies. Well, maybe except for the side quest one. I actually really enjoyed it overall because the story, it's simple, but it's good. And it's very different from the story in Echoes of the Fallen because this one, you're finding out about a hidden icon, Leviathan, because everyone wondered where Leviathan was because Leviathan's a very iconic summon or very iconic icon. Leviathan is my personal favorite summon, so I was really happy when Leviathan got its own dedicated DLC. And let me tell you, the fight with Leviathan is so good. The best fight in Final Fantasy XVI. Like, there's one part where it puts up, you know, its powerful attacks because like certain bosses get these purple health bars, and when they get purple health bars, you have to destroy the health bar before its countdown ends. And Leviathan has one, but it's not like a normal one. In Final Fantasy mode, you have to play perfectly to destroy it because if you're not playing perfectly, you're not gonna break it. Like, it's not possible. If you're even off by a hair, you're not getting it. And it's an instant death if you miss it too, and you have to start it over. So when I was doing the fight originally, I was getting really mad because I thought the attacks were really hard to dodge, or like were impossible to dodge, but it turns out that they're not. You just have to be very good at the precise dodge. I don't know why I said good like that, but yeah, it's a really good fight. It's also gorgeous. I forgot to mention that. It's actually just straight up beautiful. Like, I applauded at the end of the Leviathan fight because it was so good. It was such a good fight. Once I really took it all in and sat back, I was like, dude. That's a boss fight. That's how you do a boss fight. So overall, Rising Tide is really good. I would honestly say complete Rising Tide because I think Rising Tide is worth completing. Although, if you're at all familiar with what it means to complete the Rising Tide DLC, then you're very familiar with one trophy that I have deliberately been avoiding talking about. You game. Off game, dude. I literally would have had that. Oh my god. So, yeah, Final Fantasy XVI is a very, very interesting game. I think it is a really good game, and I highly recommend playing it if you haven't played it, which you really should if you haven't played it, because it's a good game. But again, I don't recommend platinuming it because you're just gonna look at the main game in a negative light. So, yeah, that was my experience with the Final Fantasy XVI Platinum. Let me know in the comments below if you have it or not, because I would love to hear what your experience was like. Also, I would love to hear what y'all think about Final Fantasy XVI as a whole, because I personally think it's a really good game, and I would love to hear if you guys agree, disagree. Anyway, my name is Ryan Kelly, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.